Hello, everyone. In the past decade, I've purchased, okay, let me get my book out here because I don't quite remember. I purchased 7 condos, 6 starter homes, well, single family homes, and 1 small multiplex. Okay. And I've also looked at more than like 100 properties. I mean, I'm sure I looked at least 200 properties in the last 14 years, trying to find the right rental property to add to my portfolio. Now, can you relate to this? Are you starting or restarting in your real estate investing journey and you find it super confusing, like what strategy to focus on? Should you be investing in condos? Should you be investing in single family homes? Or should you be investing in small multifamily units? And what does it all mean, like in terms of your lifestyle? Because I think a lot of people don't really talk about what it could do to your lifestyle, because all of us really want to have, great returns on our investments, but we also want to stay long-term investors in this game. And when a property sucks and you don't realize the consequences of purchasing a property and what it really means on your lifestyle, well, that's when you could get frustrated and sell it too early. So I'm going to lay it all down today. I'm going to do my best to talk about the key pros and cons and the level of effort involved. So if you are just getting started in real estate investing or getting restarted and looking to, well, grow your portfolio, then you better check out today's video because it's going to be full of valuable content. See, when I was starting out, I knew how to crunch the numbers, but I really didn't know what it meant, like how it would impact my lifestyle. Okay, that was a huge thing that I learned over these many years. Okay, so that's why you could tell in my portfolio kind of have a scattering of different types of units. I have some condos and I have some single family homes. I have a small multiplex. So I was all over the place with my real estate portfolio because I was focusing too much, way too much on financial gain rather than looking at my lifestyle and saying, can I really, should I really invest in this type of rental property? What are the consequences and the level of effort investing in this type of rental property? In the end, it really depends on your end goals, what kind of lifestyle you want, and of course, well, the financial gains, of course. Obviously, that's like a no-brainer, but really, you got to ask yourself, what are your end goals with every rental property? What is your exit strategy? And could it really make a big drag to your lifestyle? So I hope this video is going to help you make an informed decision. Okay, I wish someone made this video for me back when I was just starting out or starting to scale my real estate portfolio. So I hope this really helps you out. And if it does, please remember, smash that like button. Help a gal like me. I'm just some Canadian YouTuber with a small channel, really trying to grow my presence in Canada. So please support a gal like me. Okay, if you like this video and find it valuable in any way, please hit the like button. And what I'm going to do for you is, well, take my like 14 plus years investing in real estate and shorten your journey to as little as minutes, like in this video. So when it comes to condos, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons. So some obvious pros is that, look, it's just so much easier to get into the real estate investing game with a condo because, like, I don't know about you, but I started my first property was a condo. I bought it as my own home, okay? And I realized after a year living in it, I realized the rent was was incredible. And I thought, this is like a no-brainer. If I could collect that type of rent, it could pay out all my expenses with my condo, including my condo fee, and still give me a surplus in cash. So I actually have cash flow coming in. So it's no brainer for me to just move out of my condo, rent it out, and then go buy something else, which is, I think, a lot of you could do. Another great thing about condos is that you can actually furnish it like with not a huge cost and actually rent it out as a furnished rental. You can even put it on Airbnb and make it a short-term rental as long as, of course, the condo board allows it. But now that's all good. We got to talk about the downsides of a condo. Okay, the downsides of condo, well, the number one thing I hate about condos is condo fees, okay? Condo fees, they start out usually small, especially if you buy a unit that's not that old. But the more common areas you have, like a pool, like a sauna, like equipment room, well, guess what? Those require maintenance. So your condo fees, in my last 14 years, condo fees always go up and it starts eating your cash flow. In fact, if the condo fees go up more than inflation, well, it puts a damper on your cash flow. Another downside with condos is that you have shared walls, okay? Now, what does that really mean? Well, if you had, say, for example, some problems with your condo, meaning there's a leak from upstairs because, well, the leak was from the other unit and it caused damage in your own unit, well, you're going to have to deal with the condo board and settle it. It may be under warranty, it may be through two different units insurance. It's just a bit of a, it's actually quite a big hassle. You can't just get the repair like done like lickety split, like say in a single family home because there's only one owner. So I would say that repairs in my, well, at least in my experience, has taken way too long because you have to deal with more and more people. The one big downside with condos is that it's really susceptible to speculation. A lot of investors go into condo investing as an investment rather than as owning a condo. So they're actually, condos tend to participate more in bubbles, housing bubbles, than say in a single family home because it makes sense. A single family home, more people are going to move into a single family home and live in it for a very long time versus a condo. There's a lot more people investing in condos, which could drive up prices. And if the prices move up too fast, then you're at risk of a bit of a market bubble, like as we saw in the subprime mortgages in 2007 and 8 in the US. So what are the pros when it comes to investing in a starter home like a single family home? Okay, some great advantages is that you own a piece of land. Okay, you own a piece of land, which means you can do more. You can demolish the home, you build an accessory unit, you could build a garage, you just have more space. So there's just, it makes it more versatile. And if, well, of course, if zoning allows it, you can demolish the home and even build like an apartment building in it. So it gives you a lot more flexibility with your land. Another plus with single family homes or starter homes is that they appreciate a lot faster than say something like a multifamily unit because, well, there's just more people wanting to live and buy a home that they want to live in versus just speculation or investment potential. It literally, people are more emotional when it comes to their own home. Another advantage with single family homes or starter like townhomes is that they tend to, now depending on the city, they tend to appreciate much faster than say a multifamily unit, okay? Because you can just imagine that normally when someone buys a starter home, like a townhome, they're buying to live in it for a very long time. They could get really emotional because they think of it as a home, like is their home base that they're going to live in for 10, 15 years. Well, versus an investor who's just looking at strictly numbers, you know, they may not buy it just because it doesn't make financial sense. They just less emotional attachment. In fact, probably no emotional attachment when it becomes an investment versus living in the home and having ownership in it. Another pro with a single family home or starter home like a townhome is that it's more liquid, okay? You know, especially compared to like a multifamily unit, like that could have two or more units, okay? Because, well, there's just more buyers on the market. And because of this liquidity, you have a higher chance of selling it even if the market goes down, because there's gonna be just people who need to buy a home and live in it. And here's my favorite thing about buying single family homes or starter homes like townhomes is that you only have one tenant to deal with, and that tenant will pay the utilities, and it's just so much easier on your lifestyle. It's so easy peasy to manage one tenant, and you are more likely to attract a higher quality tenant living in a single family home. Okay, what are the disadvantages with a single family home or a starter home like a townhome? Well, the obvious one is that there's only one tenant. So usually it's really hard to cash flow, okay? Really hard, okay? You're gonna have to be so super picky. You're gonna have to buy a super deep discount to really make the numbers work. Hey everyone, be sure to check out the link below to get your copy of Streetwise Mortgages, Best to Invest, 2021 market research of the top 18 investment markets across Ontario. Now, what's another big disadvantage of owning single family homes or starter homes? Well, you only have one tenant, so you only have one rental income. So if that tenant leaves, well, you're going to face vacancies unless you got are massively on top of it or on top of your property manager to make sure that you get a quality tenant in lickety split. Sometimes it could be a bit harder to find renters for a starter home or single family home because the rents, well, of course, makes sense, tend to be higher than condos, but that's not always the case because I had some condo rent that's way higher than my starter home because it just happens to be a luxury rental. Another downside is that there's no economies of scale. See, when you get a property manager, sometimes if you have 2 or 3 or more units in one location, they can give you a discount. Or they're managing a whole building of condos, they can give you a big percentage discount on the unit that they're managing. But because it's only one tenant in one location, then you're gonna have to pay a pretty premium for getting a property manager. Like typically it's around 10% of rental income on a monthly basis. Now, when it comes to multifamily homes, I'm talking about homes that have like a basement suite, it's a duplex, meaning 2 units, or it has 3 units. I'm not talking about commercial where you have like 4 or I think it's like 5 apartments. That makes it more a commercial setting. No, I'm talking about like smaller apartment buildings with less than 4 units. So when it comes to that, well, the advantages is that, well, you have more tenants, then you have more rental income and more cash flow coming to you. Another big advantage is that, look, if you're doing renos, it's great if one unit becomes vacant, you have other units subsidizing the vacancy, and at the same time, you can do renos on that one unit. So you can rotate the renos around those, like, say, 3 apartments without waiting for all 3 apartments to become vacant. So I think it's a bit more efficient and more cost effective that way. And lastly, sometimes with multifamily units, the cost per square foot is lower than a single detached home or a townhome. Now, that's not always the case in some cities, but more so than often, you have a bit of economies of scale when buying a multifamily unit. Another big advantage is, of course, having a property manager because you have more units. The property manager can actually give you a discount on managing that property versus a single family home, which only has one tenant in one location. Now, what are the big disadvantages with multifamily homes? Okay, I'll give you the key takeaways. The big one, and this is the one I hate the most, is the higher turnover rate. Okay, because you have more tenants, they can be like children and it could be a big pain in the butt. So you have higher turnover rates. You can have your property manager, of course, managing the whole thing, no problem. But the property manager is still going to have to bug you to screen the tenants, to accept the tenants, accept the paperwork. If there's any damages, they're going to still bug you because you just have more tenants to manage. Second thing is that I find that multifamily units are always more maintenance because, again, more tenants equals potentially more wear and tear, more stoves that get broken, more walls to paint. So that's like, it's just a bit of a drag on your lifestyle. Another big thing that I don't like about multifamily units, well, is shared walls, just like condos, okay? So if there's, say, disagreements between tenants, between apartments, well, guess what? You have to deal with it or your property manager deals with it. So there's like, you have to be, I mean, there's only so much you can do, but sometimes tenants just don't mix and they get into squabbles over like maintenance of the backyard, over the fact that someone dirtied up the backyard and then one of the tenants didn't clean it up, and then they bug you or your property manager. So that's just kind of the troublesome with multi-unit tenants. Another big takeaway that I experienced with my multifamily unit is that it limits to who you can sell to. I mean, obviously, at one point in time, you always think of how are you going to get your money out? Like, how are you going to get your claim to gain? And when you sell a multifamily unit, it tends to take longer because most of the time, it's attracting investors to buy a unit that has more than one unit, okay? Unless you're in exceptional circumstances like in Vancouver and Toronto where having a basement suite or an accessory dwelling suite is so common. But when you get into units like a three apartment building, a 3 apartment home called a triplex, or a 4plex, which has 4 apartment units, you're really targeting investors. Investors always crunch the numbers to make sure it makes sense. They're not going to be emotional. It's all financial gain. So in the end, you limit your pool of people buying your multifamily unit, so then you don't get as much price appreciation than you would do with a single family home. So in the end, you've heard all the pros and cons with a condo unit. with buying single family homes, buying a multifamily unit. Now you're probably thinking, well, there's so many pros and cons. Maybe it's hard for you to make a decision. Well, I'm going to just give you maybe the level of effort that I found with managing these types of units or having my property manager manage these types of units. I would say that with the level of effort with a condo, it's pretty small. I mean, as long as you get, and let's assume that you're getting high quality tenants with all the units, with your single family home, with a multifamily unit, with a condo, then a condo just happens to be easier to buy, easier to sell, and easier to maintain. So based on your lifestyle, I think it's actually pretty easy peasy and it's got a low level of effort. But again, the downside is just like, well, the condo fees, they suck up your cash flow, and the condo board can be a time sucker. So personally, I've stayed away from condos. I no longer buy condos. I know it's easier to purchase. It's just when you do those types of investments, they tend to be more speculative. So I would say for me as a busy professional, as someone who wants to stay invested for a long time and not worry about and making my life more simple. And if you want to make your life more simple, and yet still get some great financial gain from, I would say condos aren't the best investment. Now, and the second one, which is single family homes, I think, oh, well, the level of effort is like super easy peasy. Okay. Yes, there's going to be some times where you need a roof replacement, a furnace. I would say a single family home happens to be like more costly, definitely takes more money. But in the end, financially, you have way more financial gain from a single family home than say you would have a condo relative to square foot versus a multifamily unit relative to its square foot. But the thing about it is that you only have one tenant. Or you might be lucky, you might be able to get a basement suite in there, which would help offset the mortgage payments. But most times it's just one tenant. It's really hard to cash flow. Okay. In the beginning, when I was investing in single family homes, I would break even or just get like a cash flow like $50 a month, which was nothing because if there was any wear and tear, it would kill all my cash flow. But over the years, obviously the cash flow has grown because rents have gone up a lot. But I think it was lucky timing for me. So I would say that I'm a huge advocate, love single family homes, but it's just a much harder market to get into now, depending on which city you're living in. I would say that the level of effort was like, it's relatively simple compared to a multifamily unit. So in terms of lifestyle, it's great on the lifestyle, especially if you're a busy professional. Now, when it comes to a multifamily unit, this is when it gets a bit more complicated. And considering the financial gain from it, which is not much, it's more for income growth versus wealth growth because multifamily units, you have to really continuously upgrade the unit to attract top rent. And in order to boost the appreciation, it's limited to a smaller market of people who would be interested in buying a multifamily unit. So I'd say in terms of level of effort is definitely the most complicated one compared to single family homes versus condos. It has way more maintenance. So I would say that multifamily unit, you definitely need to be a more experienced investor. I think the best way, okay, here's my key takeaway. The best way and the most cheapest way for you to start investing in real estate is actually buying a multifamily unit that you can live in because guess what? Your tenants are going to be basically helping you live for free. So you can really accelerate your real estate investing journey. And of course, the downside is that you have tenants. I mean, your neighbors are your tenants. At the same time, in terms of financial reasons, I think it's the smartest way to get into real estate investing game. But it does come with a bit more effort compared to condos and single family homes. But the financial reward, if you live in a multifamily unit, is huge. Bottom line really comes down to your time, your energy, and your resources being cash, okay? So I'm gonna just give you a few questions that you can ask yourself whether or not single family homes or multifamily homes or condos are a better investment for you. Say you're really stuck on, yes, multifamily units are for me because I can live in the home and my tenants are gonna pay down my mortgage and literally I'm gonna like have rent for free or mortgage for free. Well, before you decide on multifamily unit because you really love the cash flow and living for free lifestyle, be sure to ask these questions. Before you buy a multifamily unit, does it have an illegal Like, are the units legal or illegal? Okay. Illegal means that it's illegal and you can get into these big reno costs to bring it up to fire code. And if it's illegal, like it has low basement ceilings, that what was considered a triplex is actually not a 3-unit building. It's actually a duplex with a small basement, with a low basement. So what that means is that you can get into a lot of trouble with your local municipality. So, and it would cost a ton of money to bring it up to code. So you really need to think about it. Second thing is that if it's illegal, has illegal suites in it, it can be much harder to sell because, of course, it's illegal. Third one is when it comes to utilities, and this is huge, you got to figure out, are the utilities going to be evenly split out because there's water meters for all 3 apartments? Or do you happen to have to pay all the bills because you're living in the multifamily unit and then split the bills up evenly or based on square foot between the apartments? Just make sure that you have enough parking spots for the number of units you have in the multifamily unit, which is huge because most people don't even think of that. And secondly, make sure that it's like decently metered, where you have water meters for each apartment. You can split up the electricity because it's not shared, but it's split up. And you can split up the gas, because that would be the best thing versus having to share the gas bills and water bills and the heating bills, which makes it a bit complicated and puts you in an awkward position especially if you're living in that unit. Now, if you're really stuck on buying a starter home, like a townhome that has no condo fees, then you've got to make sure you ask these questions. The first question is, can you really afford vacancies? Say if the unit becomes vacant for a month or 2, can you carry the costs? 2 is if a roof repair it comes up, or a furnace needs to get replaced, do you have the cash to really cover those huge expenses in a starter home, in a townhome? Third one is, because property managers, first, they're not big keeners on managing like a starter home because there's no economy scale for them. Can you afford to pay for a property manager, or are you cool with managing the property yourself? Lastly, one of the most important questions you should ask yourself is, are you going for big wealth growth? Because single family homes, starter homes, have more capital appreciation, but the downside is there's less cash flow. So ask yourself, if you're in a stable job, professional position, then maybe you're okay with not having that much cash flow because that's not your bread and butter. So maybe you're going for wealth, but just make sure that you ask yourself these questions, because I think a lot of people don't, and they get themselves into big trouble. Now, before you decide whether or not you want to invest in a condo, be sure to ask yourself these questions. Number 1, say you're stuck on condos and you really want to invest in condos because it's just easier to invest. Then ask yourself, can you see yourself maybe becoming an active condo member? Because if you do, then you think you have more control and influence on the decisions that the condo board makes. 2, are you able to accept if condo fees go up? Are you cool with accepting it? Can you really ride it out? Some of the things you can do to ride out the dent in the cash flow because the condo fees are going up is maybe you could put it on Airbnb. So if you decide to put an Airbnb or put it up as a luxury furnished rental, ask yourself, do you want to manage that type of rental unit? Because it will become more of a job. It's not as passive. You do have to, manage the cleaners, manage the huge turnovers. So there's a lot more management involved, okay? Now, last thing, if you want to get into condo investment, what is your end goal? Are you looking, like most people, just to have it as a short-term play? Maybe you're okay selling it in 5 years before the condo fees spike up. Maybe it's a short-term play. Or maybe you really want it as a long-term play, but you really want to know should ask yourself, what is your exit strategy? Anyways, I hope you found this video super helpful. If so, please smash that like button, hit it. So you let me know to make more of these videos for you. Everyone, while you wait for next week's video, please be sure to check out these 2 videos up here. They have a ton of valuable content that will help you in your real estate investing journey.